Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning, Rob.
Good morning, Rob.
Good morning. We're going to start in about 1 minute.
Morning, Rob.
Good morning. So before we get started, I want to see, we only have 38 people. What's the lifetime value of a client? Anybody have a guess? Anybody ever calculated that for themselves?
Okay.
Lifetime. If it's a lifetime client, it's
Priceless.
Depending on who forever.
I hear Bobby Golden. What do you figure there, Bobby?
well, if it's a lifetime client, then it's a lifetime.
But what's the value? How do you monetize that? How do we figure out how much time we spend there?
Grass is as green as you water it, so maybe you want to just calculate how much you spend on the water.
Okay. We got a lot of great ideas, but I think we need to assign like a value to it so that we can get leverage on ourselves. Does that make sense? And Bobby, you got a lot of repeat business. Do you ever think about what's a client worth to you?
I'm not gonna lie, I never calculated it out that way. I calculate, if I had to calculate it, I would look at a past client and say, how many referrals do I get from that past client?
Okay, that's a great start. I think a lot of us just think about we think about how many deals we're going to get from the client themselves, but the referral piece is huge, right? Anybody else have a guess that you want to put out there?
I mean, I guess if we monetize it, maybe $100,000 per client.
Okay, and how do you come up with that? Just out of curiosity.
Well, I know price points are different around the country, but when we're looking at how many times we've worked with that same client and possibly the referrals from them, let's just say you average $15,000 a transaction. For me, most of my clients are very much repeat clients. That's probably 90% of my business comes through referral and repeat clients. So I can look and just say, hey, how many transactions? I'm probably getting 5, 6, 7 transactions per client.
And that's their repeat business plus referrals, right?
Correct. Yes.
And I think you're definitely going down the right track here. So if you're getting 7 transactions times 15,000, that's $100,000+. Anybody else want to venture a guess? Because there's no right answer, but I think we're going to go through this exercise of figuring this out for ourselves.
Over the lifetime, it could be unlimited. If you're working your clients, you could get a referral every year. The average person moves every 9 years. So you build the referral off of the referral, it's unlimited.
Now, Pablo, did you have something to say?
No, I was just it all depends what's their price range, because the clients that are renting clients, they don't refer as much as the better clients. So I was trying to calculate it, but no. Okay. Unlimited is a good answer.
All right. We're going to try to monetize it so we get leverage on ourselves. But I love the philosophy of it being unlimited, because the opportunity is unlimited. It's 11:04. Frank, are you somewhere where you could talk for 2 minutes? Because everybody is very interested in the 50 basis point Fed cut and what does that translate to for our consumers?
Rob, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Yes, as we anticipated, everybody was waiting for the 18th to come, and it came and went. And the Feds actually cut. I mean, there was speculation early on about 25 basis points, or will they do 50? As it got closer to the 18th, everybody was betting on more of a 50 basis point cut versus a 25 basis point cut. So we already know, and we've talked about this on prior meetings, the cut was already baked into the rates. So the rates that we're seeing now, the 6.25, between 6 and 6.25 on conventional fives, high fives for government loans, those already had the cut baked into the rates. So we're going to ride this wave for a while. I know that they're talking about cutting another 50 basis points by the end of the year. And that's due to, you know, the weakening jobs report. So they're trying to get a handle on that. So they're talking about another 25 basis point cut in November and 25 basis point cut December. The forecast for next year is 4 cuts and then 2 cuts into 2026. So the 10-year actually got a little bit worse. Rates actually went up as anticipated. We all knew on the mortgage side that rates could potentially go up after the Fed's meeting. So they went up slightly, but nothing to talk about. It's not that they went up from 6.25 to 6.5 or 6.75. The market reacted negatively, positively. The stock market didn't do well. Yesterday was a great day for the stock market. So we're seeing this instability. For right now, rates are going to continue to remain in the low 6s or the high 5s, depending upon the programs. So right now, you know, everybody's talking about, you know, I got a client actually called me the other day and he said, oh, now that the rates went down 50 basis points, you know, am I going from 6.5 down to 6? And it does not affect rates the way we all think it does. So we're going to continue this ride. We're going to stay, the 10-year is running around 370, 372, got a little bit worse from last week, but we're going to start to see the 10-year staying in that 370 going into a 350 range. So listen, rates are great and, you know, they're continuing to stay low.
So Frank, I want to just translate here to some people who are new on the call here. The 30-year fixed rate mortgage is only, the proxy for that is a 10-year bond, because very few 30-year fixed rate mortgages are out for a full 30 years.
Exactly.
Okay. So Frank is talking about the 10-year bond, the 30-year fixed rate mortgage. That's the best benchmark to follow along.
That's what we follow. Yes.
I think, you know, what I'd like to take away from what you're sharing with us here today, Frank, is that, you know, rates have been declining in anticipation. They did decline a little bit because it was a little bit more than they expected, but the actual decline itself, the actual rate cut itself is not going to be a 50% or 50 basis point or 0.5% cut in the mortgage rates to clients.
No.
This is exciting news because I think what it's going to do is take some of the homeowners and make them into sellers, because if they're at 4.25 and now they can get at 6, you know, it might not be as painful to make that move. Because
exactly. And Rob, if you do it,
margin narrows. Yes.
If you do, and the other thing too we talk about is the 2-1 buy down. Like right now, you can go from a 2-1 buy down, which by the rate down, you'll get a 4% rate the first year, a 5% rate the second year, and then a 6% rate from 28 through 30, which is good because hopefully by 2026 or 2027, they're targeting a 5% mortgage rate, but not until 2027. So we're not going to see the rates go down that much. So a 2-1 buy down is a great option. And if we have the seller pay, that would even be better.
Right. So I think homeowners that are not in their ideal property right now, I think they're going to be contemplating and putting their properties up for sale, which is a great thing. More inventory. First, I want to thank Brian, Paula, Bobby, Scott, and everybody that contributed earlier as to the guessing of a lifetime value of a client. That was very insightful for me. I am going to go through a calculation that
truly pays into
that must be true because I found it on the internet. Okay. Hang on. I'm going to mute everybody. So I quoted. This is from a Kinder Reese post, who pretty forward-thinking group. They say that the average person has 11.4 transactions during their lifetime. So depending on when you catch them, if you catch them on their first transaction or you catch them on their 9th, that might be a slightly limiting number. However, over a 30-year real estate career, we might be able to harvest as many as 65 sales from one client. Over a 30-year career, we might be able to, or I'm going to use a little bit more optimistic, we should be able to harvest 65 transactions from one client. And how is that? If you could get your satisfied raving fan client to refer just 2 transactions per year over 30 years, that's 60 transactions. Does that make sense? So figure out what your average transaction is. You know, Brian, you know, you said 15,000. Try multiplying that by 65 instead of 7 or 5. It really moves the needle significantly, right? And then that begs the question, how do we get our clients to refer us 60 transactions over the career? What's that difference? And I think I talked about this a little bit at some of the meetings we had with our new family in Arizona. I got to meet many of you in person, which was phenomenal. So one of the things I was talking about is in the conversation with our clients and our prospects, if we don't know what our goal is, then we're not going to put out the vibe. We're not going to get back what we don't expect. Okay. And I was having a conversation saying that if I'm at your kitchen table, your dining room table, talking about you buying a new home or listing your property for sale, I believe that most of our prospects think the mission is for Rob Lazar to get a listing signed or to get a buyer agreement signed and make 1 commission. They're thinking that, hey, I'm going to pay you $22,000 to find me a $900,000 house. That's a lot of money. I want to know what you're going to do for it. But that's not my goal. Okay. My goal is to work with your brother, your son, your coworker, and your neighbor. That's my goal, because I've already, when I'm in your kitchen table, I've already processed, you know, servicing you, closing the transaction, and now I'm figuring out how do I do it at a referable level, or a what would I call it? A multiplied referable level, like where you're going to go out of your way to make a recommendation to everybody that you hear that's talking about real estate. And I don't know if Danielle Coyle's on the call, but one thing comes to mind, and this is real life stories. I was sharing a story with our Tinton Falls office about somebody that was a serial referrer. Everybody he ran into, even if they didn't have thoughts about, at the time I was a lender, about refinancing or buying, he was asking them. And one day, you know, this is the equivalent to Publix in Florida, and I'm not sure what the main the main food store is in Scottsdale area, but I get a call from Alan, and this is at the time when, you know, cell phone calls were probably 50 cents a minute. You didn't have unlimited plans. So he's calling me up saying, hey, Rob, I have somebody you need to talk to. I'm like, who is it? And then he asks the person, what's your first name? And then hands the phone over. After the phone goes back to Alan, I'm like, who was that? She's like, oh, I heard her talking to her daughter about buying a house in line ahead of me at ShopRite. And I immediately called you and handed the phone to an absolute stranger. Like, that's what I'm talking about doing such a great job. And we all have that in us, okay? But sometimes we throttle back and we say it's okay just to have a satisfied customer at the closing table. All right, instead of giving more than they expect. Okay. You know, they sign up for X. They're concerned they won't get X. I want to give them X times 2, if that makes any sense. If you've ever read the book Think and Grow Rich, one of the underlying principles is give them more than they expect. You know, deliver more than you're paid for, because it will provide abundant return. Does that resonate? Does anybody have any comments on that? Because I know many of you run your business that way. Simon.
Rob,
We always expect at least 2 or 3 referrals from one closing, but you have to follow up. That's the whole key.
yeah, that's just what I was going to say, Ron. If you don't stay in touch with these people, you can't expect them to refer you business. even if you do an outstanding job, actually, especially if you do an outstanding job, when you do an outstanding job, you become more than just their realtor. You become their confidant, their friend, their support person. And if you do not stay in touch with them on a constant basis, they feel rejected. So I think the key to this is to stay on top of it. Send them an anniversary card when they close on their home. Send them a birthday card. Just drop them a text or an email and saying, gee, how are the kids doing? I know they're going to graduate soon. You know, you need to keep a diary of what's going on in these people's lives. If you expect them to refer you business and be your person for life, you have to make sure you're in their life. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah,
Thank you.
when
Thank
you're
you.
at the closing, excuse me, I'm sorry. When we're at the closing, try to get a copy, well, don't try, but get a copy of their driver's license. So now you know their birthday, you know, you have information on them, get their forwarding address where they're moving to, and you'd be able to stay in touch with them. It's a good idea through the holiday season is to send them a little gift card. We do that to a lot of our past clients.
So a couple, I want to share a couple of comments. Number one, if you're on our Arizona team there, Glenn is a little bit, he's a little bit of a perfectionist. So he keeps rewriting the email to go out to you. So we didn't forget about you, but that will be going out today. Because he said he learned and he added some tools based on his conversations that he had with you guys out there and ladies. Second comment I just have about clients for life. Okay, everybody says we want to have clients for life, but my business coach has a saying, and the saying goes like this: your actions speak so loudly, I can hardly hear what you're saying. Think about that for a second. Your actions speak so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying. So everybody talks a good game, but you're not taking the action to get the desired result, right? So I see some comments coming across, which are all great. What I was going to share was when I was talking to Glenn, I said that I would love to have your team put into their plan. And Glenn, what do you call it when you set it up in KV Core? It's not a campaign. It's like an
Smart plan?
automated. It's what?
Smart plans. I think
Yeah,
that's
into your smart plan, right? So that it's automatic that on day 30 you go visit the homeowner, because on day 1 when they close, there's so much going on. They're not even going to remember that you gave them a gift. They're not going to remember what happened because it was a lot of activity. But if you go by on day 30 and that's part of your routine, they're now in their house, they're settling down, they can start to think about other things. And if you can genuinely go there with a servant's heart to see what you can do to help them, right? By nature, they're going to give back to you. Okay. I was sharing, and there's so many examples of how this process works. But if you've ever been out, I've gone door knocking again recently with some people. One of the principles is I'll introduce myself, give them my name, I'll have a little bit of dialogue. I'll then go, again, my name is Rob, your first name, and they always give me their name. And the reason why I say this is because when I give, I'm entitled to get back, right? So when we provide value and service and we're present, we're going to get that in return. Okay. When you're sitting across from a prospect, if they think, or even more importantly, if you think that the goal of that opportunity is to get the listing or to get the buyer agreement signed, it's good. That's the tangible outcome. That's the start of a relationship. But the real mission when you have that conversation is to build a relationship, set expectations so that you can have a referable relationship, because those referrals are worth a lot more than that particular transaction. Okay. Is anybody on any platforms like besides Zillow where you get referrals, HomeLight, anything like that? Anybody do third-party referrals for listings? And Glenn, what do they charge roughly?
35 to 40%.
Okay. So now we have the market defined, right? So when you look at a commission of $20,000, right? 8,000 of that is lead generation, and 12,000 of it is for the actual activities that we do. So you can pay a third-party referral, you can go door knocking, you can spend money on marketing, you can do electronic advertising, but there's a market. It's around 35 to 40% for capturing that business. How much does a referral cost? Unless they're a licensed agent, how much does a referral cost?
Whatever you can do.
25%.
Well, no, if you get a referral from your last client that's not a licensed real estate agent,
Zero.
it costs zero, right? It costs zero. And how do we get those referrals is by not orphaning our clients, right? And by, you know, I put in, I think it was in the text, to deliver like an extra 10%. Because at Remax, we tend to be around peers that have, you know, amongst the highest skill set, definitely the highest integrity, the highest talent. So there's nothing wrong with the processes that we do. But what if we took that, and if you're to look at it like an ice cream sundae, instead of just delivering the ice cream sundae, which is the commission, we're going to put whipped cream, caramel, and a cherry on top to make it like over the top. Like putting whipped cream on it is enhancing the experience. You know, if they like caramel, you put that on, and the cherry. Now we've went way above and beyond what their expectation is. And I believe, just like when I give something, human nature is going to be to give something back in return. Okay. So stop thinking about, you know, that Zillow call. Stop thinking about the person that you're going on a buyer appointment with. Stop thinking about the homeowner you're going to meet with as a singular listing opportunity, a singular buying opportunity, but look at them from the lens of a lifetime value, a lifetime relationship. Okay, so when you think that way, you behave differently. When you think like that, you're actually like it's almost like, you know, and I'm looking at you, Pablo, and I'm saying to myself, you go out in that appointment, and it's like, I am not looking here just to get this signed up here. I want to see if we're a good fit to have a longer relationship. And you're not going to be, you know, saying I want all your other business, but you're emanating that vibe that, you know, you just want communication and top dollar for your house. That is easy. I'm going to knock it out of the park. I'm going to deliver you what you never expected. And then you're going to reciprocate by referring people back to me. Right? Did anybody ever have an experience outside of real estate where you were wowed? You know, maybe it was your auto mechanic. Maybe it was your physician. Yeah, your contractor. Anybody ever have that experience?
Definitely an auto, a couple times.
So I had taken my wife's car in because the brakes were, you know, making a little bit of a noise. And the dealer said, hey, we could fix your brakes. However, I looked up on Carfax. It looks like you had them done 11.5 months ago. It should be under warranty. Why don't you take it back to the Honda dealer? It's like, wow, that is integrity. Okay. At one time in my career, I had a contractor that was referred to me by a dear friend of mine. And this contractor is best described as like the soup Nazi. He won't go outside of the area that he works. but he did a phenomenal job. And when I got the bill, I couldn't believe how inexpensive it was for the quality of work I got, that I actually gave him, like, I think it was a $2,000 tip on a $10,000 job where I thought it would cost me about 25. I had other bids up to 30, and the work was just perfect. So if we can deliver those type of experiences, getting the client to sign a buyer agency agreement, that's the easy part, right? We know how to deliver the service, and then we just need to figure out how we elevate the experience so that we get more repeat business, right? Because if you close on and I'm going to use round numbers, let's just say you close on a transaction and it generates a $20,000 commission. That is great. I mean, congratulations, that's the start. But if you can put, whipped cream, caramel, and a cherry, where that experience is so much more powerful, you're going to get two referrals from that client every single year because you went above and beyond. Because people love to write negative reviews, right? They'll slam you if they're not satisfied. But people also love to refer quality experiences that they had, right? I think human nature is probably, we like to get on the internet and slam somebody who we feel didn't do justice to us. And that's the negative side of the business. But clients that were wowed by us, right? We create net promoters who are out there going out of their way to tell people about the experience they had. And every time they do that, it's giving us an $8,000 referral on a $20,000 transaction, because Glenn Baker and many of your peers are willing to pay a 40% referral for a quality lead, right? And when you have a quality referral, are they easier to manage or a little bit harder to manage?
Easier.
Easier to manage, right? Because somebody said that you gave them a quality experience. They said you can trust Pavla. They said she's the expert, and that's what it's all about. So instead of celebrating the $20,000 commission check that you get, focus on how you can add 10% to that experience so that you get more repeat business, and definitely put it into, Glenn, what did you call it? A smart campaign or smart plan?
Smart plans, yeah.
Definitely put it into your smart plan to go out there and visit them. So if you have somebody, just take this visual, right? Everybody knows two people that are buying or selling a property at a minimum. And if you've sold somebody a house in an area where, let's say it's an $800,000 home, what type of referrals do you think you're going to get from that person? Are you going to get trailer homes? Are you going to get $4 million houses? Or are you going to get $800,000 referrals mostly? What do you think?
800.
You're going to get referrals from people like them. Okay. So it's called smart campaigns. So you're going to get referrals like the client, and people hang around with people who are like them. So if you had a good experience and you genuinely liked your client, they're probably going to refer you, by and large, people that you're going to relate well to and are going to get similarly good experiences. Okay. So stopping there 30 days after closing, having the right conversation, it's not obnoxious salesy if you say, hey, Rob Garver, how you doing? How you liking living here in Boonton now, or Mountain Lakes, right? You have this conversation, maybe you give them a gift if that's in your DNA, and maybe you give them a $50 or $100 gift card, right? And I would say that, that gift card is partially gratitude. But if that makes Robert feel better about me because I shared my gratitude for it, it's gonna help, he's gonna have a higher propensity to give me referrals, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at what you pay in the open market for a unqualified random lead, if you're buying leads in Mountain Lakes on Zillow, you're probably paying about $1,400 for every live transfer that they put into you. $1,400 from somebody that you don't know, probably doesn't even intend to work with you. We're shelling out that amount of money, and yet we could take that and go to 14 of our past clients, express gratitude, and ask them, hey, do you know anyone else I could help? And you need to be authentic in your own words.
So Rob, if I could just mention that I have a client that I started with 18 years ago and the first commission was $17,000. Over the course of these following 18 years, they've generated between their own transactions and referrals that they've given to me over $300,000 in commissions to me. And that was doing all the things that we've been talking about, following up, being, honest and true to them, and being supportive of their every need.
Yeah, the other thing, if I may, Rob, is my background is in advertising, and the number to remember is 7. Like, that's how many times you need to touch a customer to really make it relevant, because otherwise, if you do the one-hit wonder, they kind of forget about you. But 7 touch points could be, in the old days, it was TV, radio, bus shelters, and things like that. In our world now, it could be an email, a text, a gift card, different ways to touch them, but you need to be patient through the years.
So, and this is not to brag or do anything, but I get so many of you and your peers who have come to me and said, I get put in situations where people ask me questions about, I heard that I don't have to pay a commission, or what's going on in the market. And they say that they feel so much more prepared because they participate in the conversations that we have here, right? And when you said 7 times, if you're on these calls and you're like, I heard that a few times before, well, sometimes it takes, many repeating, practicing times to have that be part of your DNA, your nature, your comfort zone, right? So is there anyone that, had a client challenge you and you just said, boy, that was easy because we've been talking about it for months? Is there anyone that can remember an experience like that? I have to do better, Howard.
It's been kind of interesting for me since we have had this change, and we have to do either here in Arizona, we have to do an agreement to show, or the buyer broker, and they know upfront what we're going to expect for compensation. Twice I've had buyers say, well, the seller is not agreeing to pay what I agreed to pay, and do I just write you a check, or how do I take care of paying you the rest? So, and they have been perfectly fine if I'm offered more, just saying, I'll go ahead and amend, sorry for the dog. I'll go ahead and amend that because I want to make sure you get paid what you're supposed to get paid. It's been actually the opposite of what I expected.
Right, and part of it is what you put out. And I would suggest that you could have an absolute stranger, Beth, that will respond that way because of the way that you communicate to them, right? Because if you have reservations and fear in your own mind, the consumer is going to see that a mile away. They truly will. I don't know if Amy is on, but when we did the office meeting in Tucson, we were kind of going around the room, and Amy Perez, who has a experience working in Colorado, she said, we've been doing this for years and it's no big deal. And it was really interesting to see the mindset and the body language. I know, Howard, you were there. Do you recall that?
Yeah, in Colorado, she said that she's been using buyer broker agreements for years. She said when she came to Arizona and they weren't using them, she said, I was really kind of befuddled as to why you wouldn't be using them all along. So the migration into the new forms for Amy has been virtually 100% understanding and 110% confidence level. You know, well, one of the things we were talking about though was, you know, getting referral business. And with this group that we have here, it would really be, I would love to hear an assortment of what do I do to continue my relationship with people that I've had as past clients for several years. What do I do to stay in touch with them? I thought the idea of getting a picture of their driver's license at closing was priceless because nobody wants to give up their birth dates. You know, maybe you could get an assortment of wedding dates because some of the people have been married 2 or 3 times. You can send out congratulations notices to all of them.
and simply a house anniversary. How about that one too, Howard, right? You know when that was.
Which one?
A house anniversary, when they closed on their house.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we've all been using tips and tricks on how to stay in touch with our past clients, but I keep hearing neat ideas on how to do it. You know, you got to stay in touch at least 7 times before you're branded. And, you know, closing the home is only one. So what else do we do? I think we all see the value. We just don't know exactly what do we do to keep in touch on a long-term relationship basis.
Howard,
Yes.
I think a really good idea is when you're doing your business planning, just like you plan out, if you're a farmer, you plan out your farm, you make your past clients your past client farm. And you set out a business plan of what your contact is going to be. Give it some thought, plan on it, and then execute it.
Right.
It's
So
not a hard thing to do. These people are happy to hear from you.
Right.
So Colleen and Howard, I think Howard, you're piggybacking nicely off of the concept of, you know, if we can deliver a more referable experience, right? That's step 1. Step 2 is what are the processes that we do so that we don't have breakage, right? So that we don't lose track with clients. Because probably one of the most painful things that I've seen is an agent comes in here and says, that listing I just came on, that was my client. Wonder what happened, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if you're in leadership, you've seen agents come to you when a past client or a friend of theirs or somebody that they had built a relationship with chooses to work with somebody else. And usually it's because we orphaned them. That's the overwhelming problem, right? And I think, you know, to solve for the problem, you first need to diagnose it before you can solve it, right? A doctor that gives out medication without diagnosing the problem will soon lose their license. So we need to figure out, like, what's the problem? What's the reason why all the people that we should be getting referrals from aren't giving business to us? And it's also a game, or it's a play on the margins, because you know, and I hate to keep coming back to you, Glenn, but you have the thing called Fellow, which shares with you how many people in your database have transacted without you. And understanding people who chose to transact without us leads us to figure out a better solution to how we can lower that number. You could probably never completely avoid it, right? But Glenn, how does that make you feel as a business owner?
You want to make me cry. I think that's what you're trying to do.
I'm not trying to, no, I'm not trying to hit a nerve, but it also shows a tremendous opportunity, right?
195 million in my database transacted without us.
And there's probably even a few transactions that fellow didn't pick up too, right?
Sure. I mean, nothing that's past sales, but in our database, people in our open house, people in our sphere, 195, 126 to be exact. I mean, 1.95, 195,126,000 is the number. To be specific. I'm not dwelling on it though, I promise.
Right. So that's an opportunity, not a problem. And, you know, realizing it is the first step. And everybody here can easily triple their business and without tripling their effort by mastering the communication, having consistency. And I also talked about with some of our leadership team about how many hours do most real estate professionals actually work? Like how many hours a week? And, you know, we all have, you know, time that we do that's inefficient, that, you know, not really productive. But maybe we ought to take a week, calendar everything we do, which is a little bit annoying because you got to go and write it down at the end of the day or every couple of hours. Then at the end of the week, let's do a calendar audit and figure out how much of the activity we're doing leads us to where we want to go. It's akin to, you know, driving around in your vehicle without a GPS. You might eventually get there, but it's probably not going to be the best route.
Rob, real quick, I did Mike Ferry coaching, I want to say it was like 8 years ago, and I had missed Platinum Club twice. And after the second time, was so frustrated, that's when I did coaching. One of the things that he said is exactly that. And to get a planner, schedule your time, know what you're doing, know if you're doing busy work, productive work, prospecting. And that very first year I hit platinum, been platinum ever since.
Well, you know, Scott, thank you for sharing. And I think that sometimes it's painful to do that, right? But that's the only way that you grow by, you know, realizing.
When you look at your numbers, you know, you're not hitting the numbers you want because you know you weren't actually working. That's when it gets painful.
Yeah. And if you're not, you know, dedicating and time blocking income producing activities, you know, lead generation business, and lead generation doesn't need to be, you know, circle prospecting, you know, calling expireds and FSBOs. Lead generation could be, you know, visiting your past clients. Okay. Lead generation, you know, could be communicating better with your sphere. Okay. These are all things that, you know, I shouldn't say everybody, but most of the industry is caught with shiny object syndrome, right? They're looking for the Ozempic of real estate to trim down their waistline without having to do any work. And I haven't seen it. Okay. There's no magic pill. Okay. But the closest thing you have to a magic pill is on the Hollywood squares we have here. Look to your left, look to your right, look up and down. You know, there's some of the smartest people in the business that are sharing their ideas. Okay. And everybody has, you know, everybody here has room to be more efficient, room to improve. So prospecting, does talking to past clients when it's appropriate, is that a hard conversation or not?
No.
It's easy, right? It's super easy. And then to find a way to put an awkward pause in there, Pavla, and say, hey, by the way, you know, who do you know that I can help? Or maybe you even experiment. You might say, hey, Pavla, can you think of 2 people that are going to be buying or selling in the next year that I might be able to help? And notice I said, can you think of 2 people? And you know what my experience has been when I do that with agents? Is either they come up with 2 people or they're like, you know, Pablo, I can only think of 1. Let me give you their name and number.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Hey, Rob.
Right? Yeah.
Rob, what about the client that when you finally get the home closed, you're so happy to have money there?
Hold on, let me mute everybody. Hold on, Howard. Go ahead, unmute yourself, sir.
How about now?
Perfect.
What about the client that when you finally get the home closed, you're so happy to get the deal done and be away from them? How do you stay in touch with them? Because you earned your money more on that transaction than most of the rest of them. Wouldn't you want to make it pay in the future by accelerating your follow-up with them, even though they were not the most fun people to work with?
I mean, I want to poll the participants here, but my opinion would be, I wouldn't be disrespectful, but I would be a little bit slow to be asking for more business because, you know, people usually hang around people like themselves. And, you know, I think I might have said while we were together, Howard, everybody brightens up the room. Do you remember the rest of that?
Oh,
Some when they enter and some when they leave.
all right.
So, you know, our channel is called Abundance in Real Estate. So I don't know. I want to get some feedback from the audience, or the participants. Who has the mindset of I had to work triply as hard on that deal? I want to make sure I get referrals, or do you say, you know, I'm going to focus on the easy business because they probably have more lucrative referrals?
I think it kind of depends. I always like to say the saying, not straight to their face, but I want to, saying, let me refer you to someone I don't like. So that means it was such a difficult transaction and such a difficult client that we just didn't jive. And you have to feel comfortable knowing that in that period of time, if you really didn't jive, it's not worth the relationship. I also think that could be a product of not setting proper expectations up front on this is how I work as a team with you to get you the best benefit out of working as a team to get you the property, or, you know, get your property sold. And, you know, I have actually fired clients in the past, and I look back and it was one of the best things I've ever done, because they, you know, I had somebody who said, I will not buy a home till I've looked at least 150. And that's just really not a great use of my time. And so I really do think it depends. There are some people that I hope they find another agent and I don't ever want to see him again. So I mean, I think it's not all about the money. We do need to be selective with the people we work with and how we all interact together.
Our business is so interconnected that Howard's thought brought me back to a Chris Voss presentation that he had. I think it might have been at R4. And he talked about there are two types of clients. There are ELFs, ELF, ELFs, and there are HALFs, HALFS. Anybody ever heard that? Nobody? So an ELF is an easy, lucrative, and fun client. Easy, lucrative, and fun. Sign me up for those. A HALF is a hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating client. Hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating. So you don't want halves. You want ELFs. You want the easy, lucrative, and fun clients. And, you know, chances are they refer other easy, lucrative, and fun referrals, as opposed to hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating clients. So, you know, my opinion is I probably would not go over the top to try to, you know, it reminds me kind of like the scenario of a gambler, Howard, that's lost money on a deal and they want to double down on the next one. That usually doesn't work out well. So if you were to bet on the people that have given you positive experiences and are going to give you positive referrals, because that hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating customer that was difficult, they're probably not going to refer you as easily either, right? You're going to work harder to get referrals that are more like them.
Discovered when I've had problem children like that. When it's over, and good riddance. But they probably reach out to you sooner than you would than I would reach out to them because they're still complaining about something. So they are good riddance in my book. It makes me go give more love to the clients that I've had, I guess I would call elves now. So yeah, no need for that troublesome child.
Yeah. So,
That's
most
right,
of
I
our
know it's
business,
in my face already.
I'm just gonna take a moment to share something that I prepared, and let's see if I can find it here. So on the attachment, I gave you a couple of posts I found online, and I want to say back in 2010, the lifetime value of a client was 100 and some thousand, and 2018, maybe 440,000. Probably now more significant. But without proper follow-up, the lifetime value of a client is 0. So there's this whole like marketing funnel that we go through for normal clients. And after they select us, right, we have to fulfill, like we have to do the transaction. And then the impact comes from the experience, and the experience is not defined by us. The experience is defined by the consumer. You can say I gave a great experience, but if they don't feel that way, you're not going to get referrals. And then the growth is, are they going to be a mouthpiece for the job that we did? Are they going to feel so comfortable that they want to go out of their way to refer us? Most people don't, even with great service, but you can harvest leads from them by keeping in touch. And then every once in a while, you run across an Alan Kazin who just, calls you from the supermarket because they heard somebody say real estate, right? So, I think thoughts matter, mindset matters. Going out on that appointment with the sole goal of getting the listing, and not the sole goal of, I'm gonna knock the ball out of the park. They're going to be so impressed with my experience that I'm going to get so many referrals in this farm area where I'm working. And that involves not just delivering, a good value for what you did, but making that a referable experience. And having the vibe where it's like, and I'm looking at you, Brian, now that you're back in camera. Brian, when we work together, here's how it's going to work. And, hopefully at the end of the experience, you're going to be satisfied. And I hope to get referrals from your friends and family, and if that weren't the case, where I delivered that type of experience, honestly, I would withdraw from consideration here. Like, I wouldn't want to be hired. So like, if you have a half that up front, a hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating, it's okay to walk away from that. Has anybody ever had a really difficult client where you lost money?
Unfortunately, yes.
I see everybody shaking their head. Those who aren't shaking their head are just not paying attention, because you get them. And it's not you're better off not signing that client up, right? If you get an unreasonable seller and you do all the marketing and the house doesn't sell, not only do you not get paid, but you outlaid hard dollars and you wasted your time.
Yep.
Okay, so we have to believe in the experience we can deliver. We have to, maybe not say explicitly, Gary, or Brian, you said a great job. At the end, I want you to give me referrals. Like, that to me sounds a little bit arrogant and self-serving. But if I feel like I can't, exceed what you're looking to do, if I feel that I don't feel that you're reasonable, I don't feel that I'll be able to provide that level of service, maybe I have to look at my options and say, next, right?
I think that's kind of a different story, like when you're in the transaction or in the process, right? So you've shown somebody 20 houses, 30 houses, 40 houses, you're like, man, I am so time invested. I got to keep going so I can get paid. I think that it's harder to walk away during that process. I think because there's that mindset of I got to get paid versus, hey, we just closed. I know that they're a half. So yeah, I just don't need to reach back out to them.
So I had an interesting conversation, and this goes back many, many years with believe it or not, a stubborn real estate agent. Can you imagine that? And their mindset was, I spent so much time working with these clients, I can't give them up. I'm like, how much time have you spent? Well, we've been working together 8 months and we probably go out twice a month to look at properties. I'm like, had it ever come across your mind that maybe they're not going to be buying? Maybe they're just not, they believe they're ready, but they're not, right? So I would walk away from that client instead of double down saying, at some point, the money is lost, the time is lost, right, Brian? And it's a fool's bet to continue to do the same thing and expect a different result. What do they call that?
Being stupid. Insanity, yeah.
So, anyway, I think sometimes, if you were to stop, if you went out with them 8 times and they didn't buy, if you stopped at 3, and maybe at the second time you had a gut check to see what's going on, right? Maybe you'd have better intel. So anyway, add 10% to the service that you already deliver, the great service, find a way to enhance it by 10%. I believe if you up your service by 10%, you get 100% more referrals. So if you're getting 1 referral every 2 years, you'll get 10 referrals every 2 years if you just give a little bit more during the process. And if the client knows, would it be fair if Brian, if you knew that I was going to your house and my goal was not just to get a commission, but my goal was to deliver referable service so that you went out of your way to give me business because I did such a great job, would that be good for you as a client?
It would.
I mean, you would love that, right? You'd be like,
absolutely.
He's not out to sell my house. He's out to build a relationship.
Correct.
And if we can emanate that vibe because it's good for us, it's good for a consumer, why don't we do that? Right? We're afraid that they're going to ask us, "Ooh, 3%, can you do a little bit?" Like, no, it's not about the money. We've already talked like several times that after the transaction, the customer probably forgets what they paid, right? But they don't forget if you didn't call them back, do they? They don't forget if the experience was rough. Those are the things they don't forget. But Robert Garber, how many houses have you sold in your lifetime?
I think it's about 100.
And you sold houses before you were in, no, I mean, personally, you sold houses before you were a real estate agent, right?
3.
Do you remember the commission on all your sales before you were in the business or no?
No.
Of course not, right? But you do remember if that was a positive or negative experience, right?
Absolutely.
So I contend that, commission is just a conversation piece. And if they know that, we're here to deliver a referable experience, that's good for me and that's good for you as a consumer. And everybody wins. All right. So instead of trying to figure out how do I do an extra deal this month, by cutting corners, you build out an infrastructure and deliver a little bit better service that will generate you more business that you don't have to pay for those referrals. Because I guarantee if I had a lead source that was giving me solid listings of motivated people and they came to me and said, "Look, Rob, every one of these people are going to list with you. They're going to be reasonable. I want a 50% referral fee." I think there are some people on this call that would take those. Right? So the value of a good customer is somewhere between 35 and 50% is the cost of procuring it. And we have a gold mine, okay, that's in our database, that's in our past. And then we can improve the experience to get more referral business going forward. All right. So I hope that, this strikes a nerve, that you see a new opportunity, and I'm not losing my mind when I keep repeating the same stuff, because I want it to be in your subconscious about how we go about these conversations. All right. Have a fantastic weekend. Again, welcome Arizona family, and Florida. I will be down there next week, Monday through Thursday. So I might be in your neighborhood. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
Bye, thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.